today I want to focus our attention on why we are here as a church. So this sermon is a sort of a reminder, and if you're new to Church of the Resurrection, this may be new information to you, but I want to remind you, I want to report back to you, this is who we are as a church, this is why we exist. The reason why I want to do this today is the same reason that Moses spoke to the children of Israel as they were getting ready to enter the promised land. And he was 120 years old and getting ready to die, and the entire book of Deuteronomy is his final words, his final sermon to the children of Israel to say, don't forget who you are. Remember who you are. 6 times he uses the word forget related to the Israelites. Don't forget. 15 times he says, remember who you are. Remember these things. You're to love God. You're to love your neighbor. You're to obey God's commandments, all of this. And so for me, he's telling that to the children of Israel so they don't forget their identity, their calling, their purpose, where they're going to find life. I want to remind you this is our purpose as a church. This is why we exist. This is what God has called us to be and called us to do. Now, at Resurrection, this purpose became codified in the early 1990s. So when we came to start Church of the Resurrection, I was 25 years old. I was dreaming and praying and reading scripture and asking, okay, God, what do you want this church to be and to do? And we eventually codified it in these words that appear at every one of our locations throughout the Kansas City area. And that is, our purpose is to, and you might even say this with me out loud, our purpose is to build a Christian community where non-religious and nominally religious people are becoming deeply committed Christians. This is so important. It drives us. It is our magnificent obsession is to be able to do these things. It is what God has called us, asked us to do. And so when I think about that, we're to build a Christian community. That is a place where people connect together, where they love each other, where they care for each other, where they seek to serve God together, where they seek to grow in their faith together, where they bless one another, love one another, serve one another, care for one another. All of these one another's we find in the scripture. And that is what we're meant to do, is to create a place that is so welcoming, so loving that when people walk in the door, they feel something remarkable. The other day, one of our new staff who began attending church about 6 months ago, I think, maybe longer than that, maybe a year ago. And he said, you know, in my entire life, I have never felt such love from a community as I felt when I started coming to this congregation. That's what we hope people will feel. And so that's a responsibility for all of us, whether you're online or on TV, or, you know, if you represent Resurrection, you tell people you go to Resurrection, then you're meant to express that kind of community to other people. And we all need that community. We all need other people. And you know, even if that means you're signing up, if you're online outside of Kansas City, you're signing up for small groups and classes where you get to know other people. And then you're building community, maybe even starting small groups in your community where you live as you're seeking to build a Christian community where non-religious and nominally religious people are becoming deeply committed Christians. Non-religious and nominally religious people. We started this church in 1990 with this idea that our goal wasn't to take people from other churches. Now, we have people who moved to Kansas City, they joined. We have people online who were worshiping somewhere else and they ended up coming to us. And we're grateful to have you, and really grateful, truly. But our driving passion is to find people that Jesus was looking for. He was constantly searching for people who weren't involved in the synagogue, who felt like they were outcasts or outsiders, who felt like they were unseen, the kind of people that the religious people actually looked down their nose at. And Jesus knew there was a whole lot of people who were far away from God, and sometimes it was the fault of the religious people who pushed them away from God by their hypocrisy or their judgmentalism, or, you know, and so Jesus was always looking for these people. I spent a lot of time with Luke's gospel this summer, and in the last few weeks I was reading it again, surrounded by commentaries as I was finishing a book I'm writing called Luke, Jesus and the Outsiders, the Outcasts and the Outlaws. And the theme of Luke's gospel, I mean, this is like the major theme, and it's captured actually in Mary's Magnificat in Luke chapter 1, verse 53. Mary, the mother of Jesus, she's pregnant, and she's finally feeling like, okay, God has done something remarkable in me, and I have this great privilege to bear the Messiah. And then she says that God has lifted up the lowly, and he sent the hungry away with good things. And you find this theme, so it's on the lips of Jesus' mother, and you find it all the way through his ministry, that he's doing what Mary had talked about in the Magnificat. And so, you know, as you look at Jesus' ministry, he is befriending the friendless. He is seeing the unseen. He is lifting up the lowly. He is a friend to lepers. He's a friend to tax collectors. He's a friend to sinners, to prostitutes. He's a friend to, you know, to the sick and the broken and the people with mental illness or demon possession. All of these, he's constantly searching for them. And he describes this as like a shepherd who's searching for the one sheep that wandered away. And that's what this church was really built to do. We had this driving passion to be church in such a way that the people who weren't involved in church would start coming, that they would see Christ's love through us, that we would model that and mirror that to them, and we would invite them to come, and they would come and they would feel it and experience it. And over the years, we've had 15,000 people who committed their life to Jesus Christ. Some of them had wandered away for a long time. Some of them had never had any faith. Some of them were, you know, brand new to the faith, and some of them were coming back. But 15,000 people of our 22,000 members, 15,000 who maybe for the first time in their lives are saying, I really want to follow Jesus. I love Luke's gospel because that's the passion we see in Jesus, trying to search for the strays, bringing back the lost, helping people to find their way back to God.